let me share my screen. I'll start with some context. So hopefully people can see the screen. Can you hear me as well? Yeah. Right. So that's the PHE coronavirus dashboard showing you cases for the UK. You can also drill down to a specific local authority. For a while now, we've had our local authority dashboard, which takes the data from Public Health England, and you can customize this dashboard to the set of local authorities you want. At the moment, I'm showing here West Yorkshire, but if you scroll to the bottom of the page, there's a big yellow link here to customize it to whichever local authorities you like. And we've got a combination of the Public Health England cases data, confirmed cases, and ONS, the weekly ONS death data down there as well. But looking at all of these graphs at the top here, the confirmed cases, I start, as there's been a year's astronomy, which was this plot here, which gave you the Joy Division album cover. And it was basically pulses from a pulsating neutron star. You don't need to know the astronomical details, but it's basically a series of pulses stacked vertically. So there are disadvantages to this type of plot in that you get things hidden by features in the landscape, as it were, but there are some advantages as well. So I started off by just plotting every local authority's cases. So left is around the end of February last year, and the right-hand side is now. And this shows you the number of cases by local authority. This is ordered by ONS code number, which isn't particularly useful for anything else. So if I can get rid of the, if I can see the top of my screen, unfortunately the Zoom controls have now appeared and I can't switch tabs, which isn't exciting. Let me try doing it this way. I'm just gonna have to make my window slightly smaller so that I can actually see what I'm doing here. Right, hopefully you can still see. So this is now ordered by how northerly the centroid of the local authority is. So basically, if I put my mouse over down here at the bottom, that's South Hams, and you've got Plymouth down there and Torbay, and then up at the top here, you've got the Shetland Islands. Scotland starts somewhere right up here, just because local authorities, people tend to forget how many local authorities are in England. So Scotland starts very near the top, and Wales is mixed in down here. South Wales is mixed in down here. But let me go through some features that you can see once you plot all the local authorities. So first of all, the first peak, which is over on this side, obviously we were not doing very well on testing at that point, so we don't really see the first peak there. Testing started to improve somewhere, hopefully you can see where my cursor is, somewhere around here. There are some individual things like Merthyr Tydfil, Wrexham and the Isle of Anglesey, which were meat plant outbreaks. You can see those as little tiny hills in the data. This feature here is Northampton, which had a sandwich factory outbreak around August. So that's that little bump. Leicester had sort of ongoing issues and talks of local lockdowns. So you can see Leicester sticking out in the landscape. And there's a few other places like Oldham and Blackburn and Pendle, which stand out a little bit. Also tiny little bits in Burnley, but as you can see, the different sizes of features. And by this point here, we were probably doing very well on testing, so we're probably catching all the cases. And then the other thing I want to bring attention to really is the fact that the north and the south have, if you ignore South Wales, which are some of these little bits in here, in England particularly, the north and the south have different pictures for a second and third wave. The north has this hill here, this mountain range, which is the second wave, and then a sort of flattish valley, apart from Lincoln and Boston, which are standouts there. And then it has a very distinct third peak there, whereas once we get to Milton Keynes, roughly, and south of Milton Keynes, you can see that the south didn't have much of a second mountain range, apart from, as I say, bits of South Wales and Bristol, which are these areas here. But in the southeast particularly, the their second wave, or which is I'm going to call the third wave, started coincident with the end of the second wave in the north, more or less. And you can also see some little features, dips here, which are basically these little dips in this peak are Christmas, which might be down to reduced testing over Christmas. It might be down to the fact that restrictions came in the southeast about the 19th of December, I think it was. So that would have started to reduce cases as well. And then Christmas might have started to increase cases as people were visiting each other for Christmas. So you can then see after the third peak, Rutland's had some outbreaks, and then up here in East Ayrshire has had something else. So as I said, there are disadvantages to this type of plot because it hides some features. I've tried to make them semi-transparent, and you can hover over individual local authorities and it might make it a little bit clearer where they go. Obviously, we've still got our main dashboard if you want to see that specific local authority, but just to get a trend, a local trend on a national scale, this and split it down by geography. This was just an interesting way to do it. Now I'll just, having shown you that, I'll just go on a little bit on the vaccine data just to show. So NHS England publish vaccine data with breakdowns weekly, and it'd be interesting from Jess and Chris whether some of their breakdowns, their weekly breakdowns, use Open Safely or not, because they've started to get more detailed about what they show. I'm making maps by NHS Integrated Care, something ICS or STPs. I lose track of all the NHS acronyms, what they exactly stand for, but they're sort of smallish areas of the country covering things like West Yorkshire and Harrogate, although technically Harrogate isn't in West Yorkshire and Harrogate. Harrogate's in Humber and Coast and Vale, and I've made maps of England showing you the fractions of each age group that they publish. You can also get totals as well, but the fractions by first dose and second dose, and then there's a massive table that you can sort by whichever column you like to order things. So there's that. We've also, as of last week, they started publishing by MSOA. So I put all of that onto a big map of the country. It's just for England. It doesn't unfortunately cover Scotland, Wales, or Northern Ireland. But this lets you go in by MSOA and see the fraction of each age group that they publish. So if I do percentages of under 70s, that's percentages of under 70s. Those who know Leeds know this is the area with the largest percentage of under 70s is all Woodley that's been vaccinated so far. But you can change through the different age groups. So if I do hopefully 70 to 74s as a percentage, then it's a part of South Leeds, Dock, Hunslet and Sturton, which is currently doing the best on percentages. Although a word of caution and is that the percentages can get quite ridiculous. So here is 130% of 70 to 74-year-olds. And that is most likely because MSOAs use, in order to work out percentages, you need to divide by the population, and the population is using a 2019 estimate, which it's likely the population is bigger now in 2021. So that will make the percentage greater than 100 if you've done 100% of people. But also it could be that people have moved in the intervening time, and that's not modeled in any way. So it's very likely that if people are in these age groups, they may have moved into other accommodation nearby, but will be in a different MSOA. So they've shifted where they are. So things can be biased by care homes and things like that. So the numbers should be taken with a pinch of salt once they get to 100 or so percent. Obviously, there's not 130% of people vaccinated. That doesn't make any sense. But anyway, so we'll put links to that. This is on our data mapper. And I'll update it once a week on a Thursday afternoon when NHS England update theirs. So that's me.